Congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Also, congratulations to the New York Islanders. I know if you're an Islanders fan, this is a tough night. Been there with Vancouver. Not as much Boston. Boston I saw coming against Tampa Bay as well. But, I know how hard this is to see your team get that close. And it felt like if the Islanders had won this game tonight, Game 7, absolute, complete, and total crapshoot. And I will say this game was far more entertaining than Game 5. This was a really entertaining game, and yet the score is exactly the same. It still went to overtime, but I thought this was a better game. Now, the first thing to notice is the Braden Point's in. Dobson was in as well as Pelech was out. And Adam Pelech being out of the lineup for the New York Islanders, I think is a big part of the reason why we had a more entertaining game. Because part of Pelech's job is to blanket the Tampa Bay Lightning, block shots, and keep them to the outside. He's an excellent defensive defenseman. You take him out of that lineup, you put Dobson in instead. Dobson's a good defenseman, but he's not of Pelech's ilk. So you're going to end up with more shots for the Tampa Bay Lightning in this game. Early puck control did belong to Tampa Bay, but then against the flow of the play, and on the first official shot of the game for the New York Islanders, Taves scores from Leon Barzal, and that was a wraparound goal. And it was one of those ones where Vasilevsky had kind of overcommitted to one post, just wrap around in the net. And there you go. So it was 1-0. The Islanders then had a 2-on-1 that was perfectly defended by Ryan McDonagh. McDonagh did not give them anything on that. And so it's still 1-0. And that turns out to be key, because then Hedman, the other way, scores from Chernak and Kucherov at 6:28. Hedman had pinched down, which Tampa Bay defensemen were doing a lot in the first period of this game. And it was on a rebound. And it was a rebound that, Varlamov could have handled it better. But you know what? Varlamov ends up with a ton of saves tonight. I'm not going to say anything bad about his game. He played pretty well. It was a rebound that the Isles should have got out of there, but instead it went right to Hedman. Hedman scores, gets his 9th goal of the playoffs. And they showed the chart of goals by a defenseman in the playoffs. And Hedman's already in pretty strong territory for an argument that he's already on his way to a Hall of Fame career. Because you look at defensemen that have scored 9 or more goals, Hall of Famers. And so I thought, wow, that really puts in a statement. And keep in mind, I have said, and I still believe this, we haven't seen the best from Victor Hedman yet. I think the best is yet to come in these playoffs. So as a Dallas fan, it could be a long series in the finals. Shots were 7-2 in favor of Tampa 8 minutes into this game. But again, the score's 1-1, so it doesn't matter what the shots are so much in this. Sergachev then pinches down. Varlamov saves that. Way too wide open for Islanders hockey. And this is where I felt, they're really missing Pelech. Where there's too many shots being taken here by Tampa that are getting through. And, it continued. The Bolts press with 6 minutes to go. Varlamov, I felt, was the reason it was tied at this stage in the last minute. Cirelli found on a good chance. And then Killorn had one with 11.8 seconds left that was stopped by Varlamov, who, again, had a pretty good game. So it's 1-1 after 1. Second period. First minute, pressure by the Islanders. And I thought the Islanders had a much better second period than first. Taves then gets a delay of game penalty. Tampa Bay gets the game's first power play. The power plays tonight, they're part of the story. They don't end up affecting the outcome by a lot anyways. So Tampa gets some high danger chances, just can't convert. Clutterbuck then took a tripping call right after that power play had ended. So Tampa goes right back to the power play. And I thought, eventually one of these is going to go in. And it didn't tonight. Tonight it was not Tampa's night with the power play. The Islanders had no shots. None so far in the second period. Bolts were in control. The shot blocks by Tampa were high at that point in the game as well. And there was only one Islanders shot in the first 11 minutes. And they didn't credit them with that shot until later. So I put not credited yet, but they did get credited a couple minutes after that. Vasilevsky then denied a chance by Martin. And this was one of those instances where the Islanders were rolling all 4 lines. Tampa was rolling their 4 lines. Both teams playing very well, playing similar styles here. The Islanders were pushing in that second half. Clutterbuck then hits a post. So it was one of those ones that, maybe an inch one way or the other. Who knows what happens, how this game turns out. Cirelli then got hurt in a collision by Lee. Lee was coming back to try to stay onside and kind of ends up low bridging Cirelli. It was not an intentional thing by Lee. There may be some who aren't happy because it's Anders Lee, and we've seen a couple instances in the playoffs where he's made people angry, but that wasn't intentional on Lee's part. Johnson then takes a penalty that I thought was a little ticky-tacky, but in defense of the officials and in defense of this is kind of how hockey works, Tampa Bay had back-to-back power plays. So this is one of those situations where if you're John Cooper on the bench, you're saying, hey, guys, watch it out there because they're going to be looking to call a penalty against us to try to even things up a little bit. Referees do that. And that's how I felt this penalty was for Johnson. It was iffy. And I know there's going to be people who are going to say, hey, that was a good call. There was other stuff that I thought was worse that was being let go at that stage of the game. Chernak then fanned on a shorthanded chance, which would have been huge if that had gone in. We go to the third period, still tied. Varlamov looked ready to steal another one. This was early on, he was making great saves, and he looked like he was bound and determined to drag the Islanders to a Game 7. The Islanders had an evasive shot kind of out of nowhere that Vasilevsky snags at 4 minutes and 15 seconds. And Cirelli, who had looked hurt in the second period, he was throwing hits, looked okay in that third period. And so that's important for Tampa because you've got to think that seeing Cirelli go down and look kind of a little bit out of it, and you're like, okay, so points, not point. Stamkos isn't in, and now Cirelli. Oh, this would be absolutely horrible if you're a fan of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So the Islanders pushed at 7 minutes, and it looked like next goal was going to win already. This felt like overtime 7 minutes into the third period. Tampa Bay presses 9 minutes in. They were more than double the shots of the Islanders at that stage. Maroon had a tip. Varlamov stopped it. It was one of those deceptively tough saves, and Varlamov had a number of those in this game. Pajot had a chance through traffic that was stopped. Vasilevsky then stopped Bailey after that. So Vasilevsky, again, we talk a lot about the goaltending. I'm talking a lot about Varlamov. People are going to do that. Meanwhile, very quietly, Vasilevsky had another excellent game. Absolutely excellent game by a goaltender who just continues to fly under the radar, considering he's now in the Stanley Cup Finals, and he's got better numbers than Hudobin. And I felt there was no chance that Point was 100%. They talked about how he had a massager on the bench, and you could see him grimacing in between plays. I'm not sure what's bothering him. I'm not going to try to diagnose it, but he is not 100%. If this was a regular season game, there's no chance Braden Point's in the lineup. If this was a game 1 of round 1, he's not in the lineup. He was in because it was a game 6. And they knew, yes, they had 2 games to give. They could have lost tonight and gone to a game 7. They don't want to do that. You don't want to go to a game 7 against the Islanders. You don't want to give them that sort of momentum. So Point's in the lineup. The Islanders pushed with 7 minutes left. Taves then gets another delay of game call, and that was the second of the game, and it's just one of those things where you hit the puck in the air, goes over the glass, it's not intentional, it happens, and it's a penalty. 6:06 left, Tampa Bay gets a power play. But that power play, Tampa Bay starts overpassing. And when a team is struggling on the power play, as Tampa Bay is, they go for the perfect shot. And you'll see that where I'm trying to think, I think it was Kucherov that had what could have been a really good chance, and he passed it, and like, what is he doing? There were other power plays there for Tampa where I thought, okay, that's a good... oh, well, you passed it. So it's that we're looking for that perfect shot. And they just weren't able to get that. So, and this also is because the penalty kill of the Islanders kind of, I think, has got in their head throughout this series. Chances at both ends with 2.5 minutes left. I felt overtime looked likely. And then, almost Armageddon. If you're an Islanders fan, you have to be yelling at the TV, not again. And yet, probably thinking... well, it happened in the last game, worked out for us. So with 23 seconds left, a high stick by Andy Green on Kucherov, and it's 4 minutes. And, it reminded me of when they brought in the double minor for high sticking. And Don Cherry talked about how he didn't like to see a guy trying to make sure it was 4 instead of 2 and checking for blood and all that, and how that shouldn't be just a determining factor on whether or not it's an injury. And it kind of felt like Kucherov was doing everything he could, not necessarily to make sure he was bleeding, but trying to make sure. And this, again, it is within the rules and it's fine. But sometimes I look at the 4 minutes, the double minor for high sticking, and I think, Should blood be the determining factor here? Like, you can get hurt and not be bleeding, and you can be bleeding and it's not really that bad. But again, I did think of that where this is a game 6, this is an elimination situation. Now it's a double minor again. So they don't score in that 23 seconds, but there's 3 minutes and 37 seconds of power play time to start the overtime for Tampa. And every Tampa Bay Conference final coming into tonight has gone to 7. This is the only time in Tampa Bay's history where they've gone to a conference final and it didn't go to 7. You know, a lot has been made about Steven Stamkos over his career and his numbers in Game 7s. Do you know what helps? Don't go to Game 7. It's sort of like when people say, hey, Henrik Lundqvist doesn't lose Game 7s. Right, so beat him in Game 6. Beat him in Game 5. Don't let it go to 7. Nelson had a shorthanded break. Huge save for Vasilevsky on that. Again, Vasilevsky under the radar, putting up great numbers. Great save on Nelson. Palat then just missed what was a great chance, and the Islanders killed off that penalty. Does Varlamov slide again if he wins was a question I had, and I guess we won't know the answer. I was kind of thinking, you know, if he did that slide again, that would make it kind of his thing. And, you know, maybe out of superstition reasons, he might do it again, but we didn't get a chance to see it. And it was a very evenly played overtime to that stage, considering that it had started out with a 3 minute and 37 second power play. 3 minutes, 37 seconds, for Tampa. It was impressive that the Islanders had kept the play pretty neutral, pretty even throughout that overtime. And I started thinking at about the halfway mark, this is going to go to a second overtime like the last one. But again, much more entertaining game that had more chances, more shots, more shot attempts as well. Refs, I felt, were letting them play. I saw there was a lot of things in that overtime where I was like, there's a hook, there's a slash, cross check, that's a slash, that's a hook, that's interference. They're just letting it go, but then they couldn't. Tampa Bay had 6 guys on the ice. And when we say 6 guys on the ice, this isn't like they were caught in a bad line change. They had 6 guys on the ice. Somebody was on the ice that shouldn't have been and didn't realize it. And I'm sure there was a linesman yelling, but Islanders were yelling too. They had already been yelling for a penalty in a previous play by Tampa. Like I said, they were letting things go, and the Islanders weren't happy about what was being let go. So with the too many men on the ice call, now the Islanders get a power play. They didn't end up getting any shots. And I saw some upsettedness from fans of Tampa for how that power play went. But honestly, both power plays had their struggles tonight. And the double minor kill by the Islanders showed that there was a lack of finish going on for Tampa. But they did kill that off. And then the goal comes from Anthony Cirelli. Gaudreau and Sergachev with the assists at 13-18. And you could feel the relief for Tampa when that went in. You could feel that they had been kind of tense and kind of concerned, and rightfully so. If the Islanders win this game, like I said, Game 7, who knows where it would have gone. But Tampa Bay does manage to win. They had gone up 3-1. They end up winning it in 6. And now we get the Stanley Cup Finals on Saturday. So, again, who wins these games that have been played the last few days? Dallas. Dallas has to be looking at this war of attrition. Cirelli doesn't look great in terms of necessarily being healthy coming out of this game. He may be a bit banged up. Point is banged up. Palat got dinged up during the game as well. This is a Tampa Bay team that has come through a war with the New York Islanders, sort of like the Vegas Golden Knights came through a war with Vancouver, and they didn't seem to be quite right either. So Dallas might be one of the most fortunate teams I've seen in that they're probably going to play a Tampa team that if they can jump on them on Saturday, there could be some momentum in Dallas's favor. But again, Tampa Bay has shown in these playoffs that this is not the Tampa Bay Lightning of last year. This is not the Tampa Bay Lightning who have been disappointing people and their fans since 2004 Stanley Cup win. From 2006 onward, there's been a lot of heartbreaks. It looks like this is a Tampa team that should be able to end that. The shots in this game did favor Tampa. 17-6 in the first period. That's, again, where I feel like they missed Adam Pelech. 10-6 in the second in favor of Tampa. 15-9 Tampa in the third. Again, without Pelech, lots of shots by Tampa. Both teams had 6 shots in overtime final shots, 48-27 in favor of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Hits were 62-40 for the Islanders. Makes sense because Tampa Bay had the puck a lot. Power plays Tampa Bay 0 for 5. The Islanders 0 for 2. And neither power play really got much going tonight. Vasilevsky, 26 saves on 27 shots, just doing his thing, winning a bunch of games. Tampa Bay still has not lost back-to-back games since arriving in the bubble. And Varlamov, 46 saves on 48 shots. He played an absolutely fantastic series. Varlamov has proven that he is worth every penny given to him by Lou Lamoriello, and he's another example of why Lou Lamoriello deserves to be GM of the year. He moved on from Leonard, went with Varlamov. Many people, myself included, thought that seems like an odd move, but it's paid off right now. So the interesting thing, too, after this game, if you're superstitious at all, Tampa's not. They picked up the trophy. And when asked about this after the game, basically Tampa's attitude is this. We didn't touch the trophy in 2015 and we lost in the Stanley Cup Finals. So not touching the trophy didn't help us last time, so we picked it up. Now Dallas did not touch the trophy in the West, so we'll see what happens. Stamkos was in the team photo along with the other healthy scratches and the other injured players. They called everybody in, and those hats are... Ever since Fanatics started doing the hats... Now, this is a Fanatics hat, and I understand there's some irony in me saying that, but the Adidas and Reebok hats prior to Fanatics were just... They were more creative and better, and the Champions ones are doing... Oh, they just... I'm not a fan. But for the record, because somebody asked me... I think it was on an Instagram post, whether or not I've ordered Stanley Cup Finals patches or a patch for 2020. I've ordered both. So I will have one for the Tampa Bay Lightning and one for Dallas. Because to me, these teams that have gone through and qualified for the Stanley Cup Finals have gone through so much. These playoffs started the 1st of August. It is now the middle of September, and we're going to the Stanley Cup Finals. The playoffs normally start... the first week of May, maybe the second week of May, and the Stanley Cup Finals are like the first week of June. So this has been a very compact schedule. I understand there's no travel going on, but these guys are not seeing their families. There's been, a very unique scenario put in their place, and it's been really impressive to watch how Tampa and Dallas in particular, from the very beginning of these playoffs, were singularly focused on this goal. And so it should make for a great Stanley Cup final. I do favor Tampa because everybody's going to favor Tampa. But I think it's going to be a really fun series. And I'm excited to see how it's going to turn out. So for Tampa, congratulations again to their fans and to the players and to management for finally getting back to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time since 2015. And for Islander fans, I do think that with Barry Trotz behind the bench, they will always be in a position where they can go on a run. This is the furthest this team went since 1984, and I really believe that, since 1993, I guess, same distance as 1993, but I think it was the most impressive run since 1984, and I think they're always going to be a team that's in contention and might be able to win themselves a championship because Barry Trotz coaches very, very well. And this is an Islanders team that, if Pellick's in the lineup, I don't know. Maybe we see fewer shots for Tampa. Maybe things end up different. But again, that's where Tampa fans can say, if Point was 100%, and they'd be right. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. This was a fun game. Same score as the last one, but this was an entertaining, very up-tempo game, and that would probably favor Tampa. But again, with the ongoing injuries to Point, it does feel like they're having problems with finishing. I can't wait to do the Stanley Cup Finals preview tomorrow. That's going to be crazy. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.